All right. So, who's running the thing when it comes to the picks and if they draft a quarterback?
Yep.
And what have we learned about Elliot Wolf taking what seems to be more control
Yeah.
the last few, weeks, I guess?
So I have really two thoughts on this. Number
Okay.
one, Elliot is 100% qualified, right? 100%. He has been close to getting GM jobs in the past. He was a finalist for the Vikings job, for the Bears job. He was the number two in Green Bay with Brian Gutekunst. When they lost Ted Thompson, they chose Gutekunst over him. So he was right in the running for that Green Bay job where they knew him best, right? And then in Cleveland, he was the assistant GM. And so he's been a number two. He has seen how all of it works in other places. So he's got the experience 5 times over to do this, right? That does not mean they shouldn't add people. All right, and whether it's adding somebody over the top of Elliot or people around Elliot, they need to add. And I think they spent so many years laughing at other organizations about their bloated coaching staffs and their bloated front offices and all of their departments. And the reason why they could pull it off the way that they pulled it off is because Bill did a dozen jobs. And Bill had Ernie. And Bill, I've had people who've come through here say to me, who've gone other places, who are general managers in other places, I don't know how Bill did everything. None of us did. It just all got done. It was like it was like there was 10 of him. I kept hearing those things. And so the bottom line is they have to add people. They have to bulk up departments. They have to, last year, I'll give you an example. Last year it was so bad that at one point, right, the offensive coaches, after Clem got sick, had no one to break down film a week ahead. So they had to do it themselves. Normally you'd have quality control coaches, right?
Yeah.
That would be working a week ahead. So if you're in week 16, they're working on the week 17 opponent. If you're in week 9, they're working on the week 10 opponent. They had nobody to do that. This is an NFL team.
I've seen it firsthand, the video team scrambling. We're on the road. They hurry up and get on the bus, and it's a transfer to every freaking, iPad and Microsoft Surface to break down film. They've already got third down from the game we just played less than an hour ago. It's already broken down. They're going at it, and I've done interviews with Bill where I'm held up a little bit, but he's got his pencil behind his ear, and he's got 2 computers in front of him. It's almost like he's playing 2 hands of video poker at the same time. And I'm like, what is he doing? And this is the day before the game, Hayes in the barn.
Yep.
But he's just give me 1 second. I'm still finishing up some. He's doing work maniacally, and I see him do it on the plane. 2 computers in front of him. I'm like, this dude's insane.
It's an antiquated approach.
But
that's it. That's how he rolls, though.
So here's the thing: is I think this is not about hiring one person or another person. It's about giving Gerard Mayo and Elliot Wolf or whoever's running personnel the resources that other teams have, the resources that San Francisco has, the resources that Kansas City has. And, when you've got a less experienced head coach, that's even more important, because
who makes the pick?
So this is a fascinating question, Beetle.
Has it
Elliot Wolf
started
is
to figure itself
qualified.
out? That's what I'm asking.
I think it's Elliot.
Yep.
Okay, is it going to be in his contract?
Well,
is what I'm wondering.
Here's
because if you want to do that, I think you have to open it up to a search.
Right.
And you might have to do interviews, and you have to satisfy the Rooney Rule. So is it contractually stated that Elliott or Groh or Mayo has final 53, or is it going to be this collaborative effort?
Here's a detail that probably a lot of people out there don't know, that coaching contracts expire in January, right, after the season ends. Mm-hmm. The scouts, personnel people, their contracts don't expire until after the draft.
Right.
And so basically, the way it works for people on that side, your season is really not over now. Your season's over after the draft. And so for a lot of organizations now, GM hires happen now, but for a lot of these new GMs, you'll see they'll bring in new people after the draft, right? And that's when the real turnover will happen in personnel departments. And so it's not unusual that the Patriots would wait for something like that. Like Phil's saying, if they're going to redo Elliott's contract, then yes, there is the possibility that unless they've already named him the primary football executive, I think is the term, right? The terminology,
which has to be declared with the league.
Yep, and then
right?
then unless it's in his contract that he's part of some succession plan, then they do have to open it up to a process. And I would welcome a process because, again, you didn't have one for the head coach. So go see what other organizations are doing. Go get more ideas from other people. And, if at the finish line, Elliot Wolf is the general manager, then fine. But you do not have enough people. I had this line in my column, and I brought it up to you guys a couple of weeks ago, where somebody said to me, who's very involved in all of this sort of stuff around the league, right, said to me, if the Patriots hired somebody from Philly, that person would enter the building and think he landed on Mars. Where are all the people? Yeah, where are all the people? Where's the sports science? Where's the analytics? Where's this? Where's that? Right? Like, that would be the reaction. And so I'm not saying they have to be Philly, which is the most built-out team in the league in that way, right? But to support your first-year head coach and support Elliot Wolf or whoever it is, you need to do a lot more than you have been doing. I think that is clear.
And I wonder who it would be. Right, like Dave Ziegler's available. He has a good relationship with Elliot Wolf. He has a relationship with the Crafts. I think he would too, and I don't think you'd have to make him general manager.
Yeah, I think
he could be assistant GM to Elliot, or he could be vice president or director of football ops. Or there's a million titles you could give him as just a helping hand.
And he's still getting paid.
He's still getting paid, so that might make it a little bit more palatable if you're the Crafts. There's another guy who's here.
I think he's got 3 full seasons left on his deal.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Well, Josh has 4, but I think Zig has 3. I think that's what it is.
Which would be a factor. And I think that would be helpful. But I also think because he spent so much time here, it might be even more helpful to get somebody like Mike Borgonzi, who has local ties. He's the assistant GM here in Kansas City. Maybe that gives you a fresh perspective as somebody who's outside the organization and can show you a different way of doing things. But if you bring him in, do you have to make him GM? Because he's already assistant GM
right,
somewhere
I think you
else.
have to, yeah.
I think you would.
I mean, and I think... Look, it's going to take some humility, right? Again, because it's been a couple decades of laughing at everybody else who's who's doing all this stuff, right?
Right.
So it's going to have to take some humility on the part of the Crafts and saying, we were wrong. Like, a lot of it was Bill. A lot of it was Tom. A lot of it was that we had these 2 unique people that allowed us to be set up in a very different way. And now we have to reassess everything. We have to modernize. We have to do this differently than we've done it for the last 24 years because those 2 very special people are gone and they aren't coming back.
Takes humility and money.
Yep.
And that's why I wonder if it's an attractive job, if they were to conduct a search, and how would people feel about the job?
It is if it's couched a certain way. If it's couched a certain way, if it's an attractive, if you're a GM,
it's attractive.
If it's
what's
purely,
my budget? That would be my first question. You're dead last in spending in the last decade. Will that change?
If it's couched a certain way, if you say to them, shape this how you think it should be shaped, and here's a blank check to hire staff, then yeah, it's attractive. 100% it's attractive. But these conditions matter, you know?
Without a doubt.